Okay, so we just finished finding the 5-number summary of this data in our calculator. So let me go ahead and insert that here. But remember that those steps were to use, once the data is in our calculator, we would hit stat, arrow right to the word calc, and then select option number 1 or the 1var stats, right? And then we would be able to go ahead and find at the bottom of our list the 5-number summary. So we know that the 5-number summary consists of the minimum, which is 35, the first quartile, which is 66, the median, which is 75, the third quartile, which is 86, and the maximum, which is 100. So we got all that previously in the calculator. So now what we want to do is calculate the IQR, the upper, and the lower fences. So I'm going to insert the formulas using the different color, and then we'll go ahead and compute all three of those values. The IQR is found by doing Q3 minus Q1. The upper fence, I usually like to start with the adding first, is found by starting at Q3 and adding 1.5 times the IQR. And the lower fence is found by starting down at Q1 and subtracting 1.5 minus the IQR. So let's calculate these values using the information we found from our calculator. So first we're starting with the IQR. That would be Q3, 86, minus Q1, 66, which gives us an IQR of 20. So then we want to find our upper fence. Our upper fence starts at the third quartile. So we would take 86 and we would add 1.5 times 20. And if you put that in your calculator exactly as I have it written right here, then you should get the same answer as me. So if you need to, go ahead and pause, but I got 116. Now I'm going to calculate the lower fence. Same way, except I'm going to start down at Q1, 66, and I'm going to subtract 1.5 times the IQR, which is 20. And so I'm going to do that same math that I did before, all in my calculator in one step, and I get a lower fence of 36. And now our question always follows from calculating an upper and lower fence, which your book may refer to as an upper and lower boundary. And that question is, do we have any outliers? So I'm actually going to go up here and answer that next to where we calculated the fences. If any data is above the upper fence or below the lower fence, then it is an outlier. So what I want you to remind yourself is, what is the math that we just did here? We have an upper fence of 116 and a max of 100. So we do not have an outlier on the upper end. If we look down at the lower end, we have a lower fence of 36 and a minimum of 35. So we do have an outlier at 35 because it is below our lower fence. So before I end the video, I'd like to draw the box plot on the next slide. So let's go ahead and draw the box plot on the next page. What I'm going to do is just draw a blank scale, okay? And the lowest data value we have is 35. So I'm going to go ahead and start down at 30, and then I'm going to count by, let's say, tens. Oops, sorry to zoom in. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. I want to add in the upper fence. So 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. So just as a reminder from the previous page, right? I'm sorry, I keep zooming in. Hold on. We have our minimum of 35. Q1 is 66. The median is 75. Q3 is 86. And the max is 100. We also know that our lower fence was at 36, our upper fence was at 116, and we have an outlier at 35. So all of that needs to fit into the box plot that we're about to draw. The first thing I want to do is draw in the fences. So we know that we have a lower fence at 36. So at 36, I'm going to draw in a dotted line. So around 36, I'm going to represent the lower fence. And then all the way up at 116, I'm going to draw in the upper fence. So what we want to think is our box plot, which we formerly would have called a box and whisker plot, needs to fall between the fences. Okay, the box and the whiskers are going to be attached to one another, and they're going to lie between these dotted lines. These dotted lines will not appear on your calculator. They will not appear if we try to graph this on our calculator. They're just invisible fences. Okay, that's why I drew them dotted. So we are going to start with the middle of the graph, the median. So I'm going to put a long vertical line in the center of my, between 70 and 80, kind of floating in the middle of there. And that's actually my median. And then to the right of that, around 86, I'm going to put another line that is about the same length, floating in about the same spot for quartile 3. And then I'm going to reverse it. On the other side, around 66, I'm going to put another long line about the same height, and that's going to be Q1. And together, we've just graphed the IQR, or the box, in the box plot. Now, the easiest side to do is the side without the outliers. So I'm going to extend the first whisker all the way to our max value, 100. And then we know that there's an outlier at 35. So I'm actually going to, I'm trying to add in a giant dot at 35. This is my outlier. Okay, it's like a dot sitting on the outside of the fence all by itself. And the problem is we now need to figure out where this box plot is going to end. So I'm going to go back to the previous slide real quick. If we know that this value 35 is the outlier, then we need to find the next lowest value in our list to figure out where our box plot is going to end. For us, it happens to be the number 48. That is the next value that is the least value other than 35. So on the next slide over, we'll go up to 48 and say that wasn't the correct height really. I'm trying to be the same height as the rest of the box plot. Our box plot will actually end at 48, which I'm going to refer to in parentheses as like a new min. Because what we've done is we've removed our outlier and we have used our new min. Okay? Remember, our outlier sits outside. The new min is attached to the rest of the box plot. And because our outlier sits on the left and is clearly not a part of the rest of the graph, we would refer to this graph as skewed to the left. Awesome job staying with me, guys. This is my last one for today. You did amazing. Keep up all the hard work.